Okay, let's get started. I got some congratulations from people for being reappointed, and I appreciate it. And from the day I started here, I think it's a pleasure working with you guys. And in fact, sometimes it gets boring because you don't make any mistakes that we can correct. But anyway, I'd like to thank you. Can I have a vote to approve the agenda or a motion to?
I'll make the motion.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the first action item is approval of design services task order for Paonian Springs Community Water and Wastewater Systems.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and the members of the committee. My name is Amulya Paudel. I'm here this morning to seek your approval of design task order for Paonian Springs Community Water and Wastewater System Design Project. Some background on the project itself. Loudoun County, the county has a water and wastewater program which enables residents or communities, unincorporated communities in the county to apply for assistance with water and wastewater challenges. Loudoun Water and Loudoun County signed an agreement in 2015 to jointly work on some of these under this program. The way it works is the county gets application from the residents, from the communities, and then the county determines whether they are eligible for further consideration. And depending on the request, the county involves Loudoun Water on the technical side of things. So the memorandum of understanding that we signed in 2015 clearly outlines the roles and responsibilities of each entities. And for Loudoun Water, all reasonable costs that we incur as part of design and construction is fully reimbursed by the county. So this project we're talking about here is one of those projects that was undertaken under this agreement with the county. Paonian Springs. Back in 2016, 2017, the community applied under this program with the county, and the county found the application eligible for further consideration. The Loudoun Water with Dewberry as consultant assisted the county in conducting a feasibility study. That feasibility study that was completed in 2019 recommended a community water and wastewater solution to Paonian Springs, primarily driven by groundwater quality concerns, and then several non-compliant waste disposal systems in the community. Multiple iterations of the service area, the boundaries were looked at, and the one that was that the study team finally settled on is a magenta boundary here, and inside that boundary is 201 lots. Currently, there are 121 homes within that boundary. So location-wise, the map on the left here is a high-level look at all community systems that Loudoun Water currently operates. This project in specific, it is Paonian Springs, about 3 miles west of Leesburg. And this project includes work in the community of Paonian Springs and some linear work along Clark's Gap Road, about 2 miles, along about 2 miles of Clark's Gap Road that runs north to Waterford. So this is a county initiative, and the Board of Supervisors have taken some couple actions on this project. Just a brief summary of actions taken by the Board of Supervisors. In April 2022, the supervisors approved $3.5 million of federal funds, American Rescue Plan Act funds, to Paonian Springs project, and the county transferred $3 million to Loudoun Water and this is just for the design phase. In February of 2023, the supervisors approved $1.5 million of CIP funds for water system design for Waterford, and also directed the staff to evaluate the feasibility of a joint interconnected systems that can serve the needs of both villages here. And that study was wrapped up around September of 2024, and then the study uh, concluded that the interconnected system is technically feasible. And based on that finding, in November of 2024, the supervisors approved advancing this design, the interconnected system concept to design, and that happened in November 2024. And this task order is that work, design of interconnected system. So under this project, there have been some smaller design work that's taken place since the board approval to today, but this is like the major chunk of work here. So under this task order, the scope of work that we are planning on carrying out includes water distribution system and wastewater collection system linear work in the community, a new pump station in Peonian Springs, a force main that basically takes sewage from Peonian Springs towards water for treatment plant. So the goal is to discharge that force main into an existing manhole at the southernmost point of Waterford, and then a water transmission pipe that basically so wherever the treatment plant ultimately goes, this pipe will convey water to both Peonian Springs and Waterford. And then the last work that's included is upgrades, further expansion of wastewater treatment plant at Waterford. And I do want to clarify, we have another presentation here today that Kinsey will have that talks about Waterford plant expansion. These two, from the project perspective, these are two completely different projects. The other project is to deal with the current plant that we own and operate. But this work here is further expansion of that plant, which only begins after the Peonian Springs project receives approval permit from commission, the county planning commission, and the supervisors approve budget for construction. So this piece of work is further down the road. And I do want to mention, so this task order here, where the goal is to take the design to 60%, at which point, like I said, the project needs commission permit, which is a pretty lengthy process. So we kind of separated the work up to 60%, and then we look at the permitting and then advance from 60% onwards, and that will be a future task order. Consultant selection, Dewberry has been working on this project since the beginning on the project. We looked at Dewberry's experience. Obviously, they have a lot of background knowledge on the project. Dewberry is one of our community systems basic ordering agreement consultant. They've done projects similar to this for quite a few jurisdictions around in the state of Virginia. So based on that, and then we did talk to them about resource staff availability to work on this project, and taking into consideration all those, we found Dewberry to be the most suitable consultant for this design phase of the project.
I have one question. I think we discussed this some time ago. Are there houses along that route that are eligible to hook?
They are not. They're not. So the current plan is community of Peonian Springs that has 201 parcels, and Waterford has 144 parcels. They are the only ones that are eligible to connect.
Are there people along Clark's Gap that are near the main or near these
Properties or
Pro-
properties or
properties?
private properties.
There are. I mean, a lot of them are larger parcels. Yes, there are. I don't know exact count of how many homes currently exist, but there are homes that
They
will
wouldn't be
be,
eligible.
they will not be eligible. And again, that's driven by the county comprehensive plan. So, yeah.
I think I brought this up before. Clark's Gap Road is a historic road. So putting water on one side and sewer or force main on the other. It is a tree line road for the most part. How are we approaching that aspect of the project?
So that has been a concern. The initial thoughts were to put this on the easement outside of the right of way, but then that concept kind of ran into some difficulties. So the next path now is to put it within the right of way, and that would be one of our goals. I mean, it is a scenic byway, and we have coordinated with VDOT's scenic byway program on how it, I mean, obviously our goal would be to minimize any impact to the trees to the extent practicable, but then also there are these 10-foot separation requirement that we need to meet the state codes. So again, I mean, yes, there could be some impact, but we do think it would not be a significant impact to the trees. I mean, we will be down as the design progresses, we will be involving arborists as needed, depending on like some of the larger trees. So, but that has been a concern. We do take it seriously, and our goal would be to minimize as much as possible. Some of the granular details of what's involved in this task order, project management, typical stuff, meetings, invoices, project updates. On the design side, this task order includes a pretty extensive site survey, geotechnical borings, modeling and design, development of drawings and specifications, cost estimating, and constructability review. I mean, it's a historic village. Impact to existing features is of concern. So constructability review would be something we'll be taking pretty seriously on this project.
Amelia, I'm sorry, Mr. Allen has a question.
Sure.
Thank you, Jewel. Amelia, can you talk about the wells? And maybe this is premature, but are those wells, I understand they're going to be drilling some wells to serve both the communities. Will those wells be on private properties? And if so, I assume we're going to need some sort of easement or property agreements. If the people want to resist this, could they deny us drilling wells, or is that something the county can use eminent domain? Can you just talk about that briefly? Because I know that has to be approved, and I'm sure it's part of this design project, but that's my question.
Sure. And I'll try to answer that. And I may need help on this one. So back in June of 2024, you approved a task order. The goal of that task order was to go out and do test wells, basically groundwater investigation to support this project. At the time, we had finished, we reached out so our consultants identified areas where we wanted to find potential likely high-yielding wells, and they did that analysis. We reached out to the residents, and we were able to find like 15 parcels where we went out to the field and did a resistivity survey. And after that, the goal was to carry out the test wells. Unfortunately, we were not able to get any authorization to do the test wells. So to answer your question, Mr. Allen, yes, we will need to find sites where we can go and do the test wells. And this is primarily being led by the county, finding the parcel where we can do the test. As of today, we haven't been able to find a test. So that is still an ongoing effort. But then once we find the parcel, yes, these wells will need easements for perpetual maintenance and operation. At this point, we just do not know where these wells would be, where the plant would go. So that's an ongoing effort.
Amelia, if I may. Mr.
And
Allen,
Alton wants to add something.
Yeah, I would just add, it's a great question, and it's somewhat on a parallel path to the task order in front of the committee here today. The county has heard community feedback, and they're essentially in the driver's seat of the process for continuing to find sites for the wells, and they've been regrouping and thinking about processes with that, and so again, it's a bit separate from today's task.
But to be clear, would we, or would the county or Light and Water have to take these easements if people don't give them up?
I suppose that's an eventuality, but the county is really seeking avenues to avoid that.
Okay. Because I know there's a resident in our community who, when we were doing that initial engineering studies, was following those groups around and talking to them. And she's put out some publications about how it could hurt the groundwater all around it. So I'm just trying to anticipate some sort of groundswell attempt to try to stop the wells from being put in. Maybe people put pressure on their neighbors because that would be kind of the gatekeeper for the system. And, maybe it makes more sense to secure those locations, before all this money is spent. I'm just thinking out loud. So I don't know whether that is the right way to go, but, they could spend, all these millions of dollars and then find out they can't. I guess ultimately they can. They just would have to, take the property.
Right. And I do think those are great points and considerations that leadership at the County Department of General Services is definitely expressing and weighing as we continue to take steps such as today to advance the design this much further. There have been a lot of discussions around the topics that you just raised that led into their decision to authorize us to bring this forward.
All right, we'll just have to wait and see for the fireworks.
Chair, I have a sort of common kind of question. It is an old road, Clark's Gap Road. It is probably, parts of it are still it's a Bird Act road probably. Mm-hmm. So the owner owns up to the center line of the road.
Yeah.
So that adds an extra wrinkle of complications and.
It does. So we have did research along that entire road. Not all of the parcels have right-of-way dedication. There are parcels that were under Bird Act, which does not allow utility. It's only for the roadway. And we have, again, based on this memorandum of understanding, all of easements and right-of-way dedication, that's part of like county's responsibilities. And we have alerted the county that there are parcels where either the county has to go do the road right-of-way dedication or get easement for utility. And county is aware about that.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah, and so permitting this, so the village itself is, it's a historic village under National Park Services. So there will be a lot of permitting involved on this project. With this task order, since we're taking the design only up to 60%, a lot of this permitting effort is more on the preliminary side of, more preliminary coordination with the jurisdiction agencies. So this is not like entire permitting work. This is more like preliminary permitting for the project.
Excuse me, Amelia, you said design up to 60%. Could you elaborate on that?
Sure. So typically the way we do these CIP projects is we take the design to 30%, 60%, 90%, and then kind of get it ready to bid documents, right? In this case, there is, so Paeonian, we do not yet have a service district established by the County Planning Commission. That process alone is anywhere from 12 to 24 months. So it just did not, we could not, and so not knowing how some of this design may have to be tweaked based on the comments received, we thought the most efficient way to do this would be take it to 60%, where we have more confidence that we can accurately define the scope of work, take a pause, get it through the permitting, and then develop scope for taking the project from 60% all the way to getting it bid ready. So it's because of that big chunk of permitting work that's needed in between. We thought this would be the most efficient way to run the project. So here I have for you a breakdown of cost for this task order. This breakdown is for the purpose of this presentation, but this is a result of multiple back and forth with our consultant. Lot of numbers, multiple. So this is a multidisciplinary project, bunch of different disciplines involved, and we built it from the bottom. Pretty big spreadsheet contributed to, and then finally we also checked we also cross checked the consultant's estimated fee proposal with, our other projects we have done, whether it fits within the range that we've seen on a greenfield project like this, based on our experience. And in the end, we found this proposal from the consultant to be, this is what we negotiated. We found it to be reasonable for the scope that's included in the project.
Yeah, just following up on what you were just stating about the 6%. Explain a little bit why the sanitation pump station, is it dependent upon something that's
Yes.
driving it only going to 30% design?
Yeah, so again, I will keep repeating this, is getting the land for pump station, that's the responsibility on the county side.
Okay.
So that while the county is looking at a couple different parcels, we just do not know which one is the parcel. So a lot of this 30% work is coming up with like hydraulic design, that things you can do even without knowing the exact parcel, but you can only do so much. So we think we can only do about 30% under this task order, because a lot of things then depends on where exactly that pump station will be. Schedule-wise, so this task order, the scope that's included on this task order, we expect this to be about 12 months of work. And at that point, after this phase is done, we'll have to take a look at where the project is and then figure out the schedule for the remainder of the work. Construction, like I said, the Board of Supervisors have only approved the funds budget for the design phase. So depending on when the decision is made to advance the project to construction, it is funded. The duration of construction is about, we expect it to be about 30 to 60 months. Again, that schedule at this point is unknown, completely dependent on decisions by the supervisors. On our CIP plan, we've been tracking this project under COM 61, and the current budget we have is $2.4 million. And I believe this is the last slide before the motion, so I can take a pause if you have any.
The survey that just popped into me, like, we have a lot of issues that the county is going to handle, or a lot of potential problems or challenges that the county is going to handle. But all of the technical data is being prepared by the consultant under our contract. How are they resolving those right-of-way acquisition, easement acquisition, potential recommendations in their feasibility study when somebody else is driving that part of the project? Are they under contract with the county as well, or are they covered under our scope to coordinate with the county?
So the way we've been, I mean, we haven't done a lot of work, because I mean, there has been pretty significant delay on the project, right? So at this point, where we are is we still do not know where we need the easement. Like those pump station being example, we told the county like, hey, these could be potential parcels that still work when we look at the topography and all that. And then we provided exhibits, not plats, but exhibits. And then, I mean, we do get invited when the Department of General Services discusses with land acquisition, when DGS feels like we being on the table helps conversation. But mostly what we've been doing is providing exhibits that that land acquisition team needs. So we're being more on a support role, and the county project manager, DGS, involves us in the discussions on as needed basis. So yeah, our role mostly would be to identify where the easement is needed and prepare the plat. And I do not believe DuBarry has a contract with land acquisition. So that's something land acquisition is kind of doing independent of this project. We're not always in the loop on that.
And when they do negotiate for an easement, I assume they turn the easement over to us. It's not a county easement.
Yes, the easement will be ultimately when they're ready to record the easements will be recorded to Loudon Water. With that, I have the motion in front of you, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make the motion. I move the recommendation to the board to award a design task order for the Peonian Springs Community Water and Wastewater System Design Project to DuBarry for $1,762,000 with an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $1,850,000. Additional costs will require board approval. I get a second.
Yeah, will we consent agenda? Or would we,
What's that?
or we put it in consent?
Oh, yes, that would be on consent.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jewel, my computer is screwed up. Could you put the agenda in? Here we go. Okay, the next thing is approval of the construction phase services for Milestone Reservoir Pump Station operational phase services for Acatus.
As you said, today we'll request approval for an amendment to Arcadis's design services during construction contract to cover operational phase services for the Milestone Reservoir project. And before we get into that, we'll review the agenda here. Quick catch up on the team structure. Summary of the engineering services during construction that they are providing and what we are requesting today, the drivers for those services, proposed fee breakdown, and recommendation. And we first introduced the concept of this amendment back in December of 2023, when we brought before the committee and the board the item and sought for approval, basic services, engineering services during construction, as well as some additional geotechnical services that Arcadis was tasked with providing. So in this case, the basic services are the first tier here. The office-based support being RFI and submittal review and response to support our decision-making and some of the processes that we need during construction, normally. The resident engineer is an on-site, Arcadis present, full-time on the project, eyes and ears for the larger Arcadis effort and supporting with, whatever doesn't need to go to the office and they can handle themselves, is a means of achieving efficiency on the overall effort. This additional support that we'll be referencing that was already approved back in 2023 was geotechnical support, big geotechnical civil component for the tunneling in the project. And so that's been successful in, providing inspections and technical expertise to support our inspection efforts. And what we introduced back then is a future amendment, which is the one we're bringing today, to cover what we are calling operational freight services, some of which are listed here, not all, right? But it's sort of along the lines of startup and commissioning, PLC, SCADA, programming, staff training, and some of the engineering tasks that are usually needed later in the later phases of construction of the work. So this sort of summarizes that, right? We've got your basic services, your additional, and what we're requesting approval for today is sort of larger categories, right? Automation and programming, operational support. And then this one was not anticipated back in 2023, but we found ourselves in need to extend the RFI budget for the project due to a large number of inquiries from the contractor and just, issues that have come up. We should note, right, the project is currently 3 months ahead of schedule by the contractor's latest update. So it shouldn't be an indication of, trouble as much as it is maybe the contractor being extra proactive and trying to get in front of issues before they become problems on the project. Mr. Sullivan?
Question. The Loudon inspectors, do they report to the resident engineer on a daily basis, or how does that work?
They do not. We established for this project that our inspectors, right, Loudon water inspectors, would report directly to the owner and sort of be on parallel tracks with the resident engineer, not reporting to the resident engineer directly. And that's just a little glimpse into the current progress on the structure. I think the last time we presented on Milestone, we hadn't gone vertical yet, so I just wanted to sort of sneak that in there for you guys. All right, so we usually like to justify why we select our consultants for, follow-up work during construction. And this is sort of no different than the typical CA or design service during construction task order. We like to leverage their intimate familiarity with the project. In this case, Arcadis has been attached to this project since the planning phase. It's been a really long journey, as most of you know, and still providing services for the project. And the types of tasks that are involved are really ones that to bring an external consultant would mean, having them play a lot of catch up in order to design these programs, which we'll explain a little bit more what those seek to achieve a little bit later on the deck here. But I think it goes without saying that it's more efficient and it helps us mitigate risk and protect project interests to have Arcadis continue to provide those services for the project. I'll pause here if there's any questions up to this point.
I was just wondering specifically, what is reservoir field support? What do they do?
We will get into that.
Oh,
I'll just flip to this next slide here and, in the interest of a very loaded agenda today, I'll probably keep it brief. The ones that are self-explanatory here, I probably won't get into too much, but the big undertaking here for these efforts is automation and programming, which involves the development of the programs that will help the facility achieve its intended functionality and ensure that it operates, safely and efficiently. Getting it right and developing a really robust program helps us achieve all of our intended control modes of operations. It also enhances reliability of the facility and provides there's profound impacts all the way through, code compliance and regulatory requirements that the facility needs to meet. So it's really important. The SCADA component is basically taking care of the sort of the human machine interface component, the operators that need to control the program and the facility. It prepares a graphical display for them in terminals that they can use to basically control and operate the facility. So it's built for the ground up. It's bespoke for this project and it needs development. And then obviously, once you get all of that programming developed and uploaded, there's going to be integration. There's going to be troubleshooting that needs to get bugs that need to get worked out to be able to sort of put it in front of operators, train them, and get the facility sort of operational, right? So that's sort of all involved under this larger automation and programming effort. On the operational support, I'll repeat, most of these are pretty self-explanatory. I'll get into reservoir field support. So in the case of the quarry, the fill operation for the quarry is not simply sort of turning a valve and letting it fill. There's risks that have been identified during the design phase that require a more careful, methodical approach. The reservoir is going to be filled in intervals, and there's going to be long hold periods to basically confirm the geotechnical conditions and potential issues that might, lead to, for instance, seepage across the AB wall and into the adjoining quarry, right? So what we seek to achieve with the reservoir field support is to have on-site field observations and data collection as we reach these different intervals and the fill. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 total hold points, 30-day pause periods, lots of documentation, figuring out what the quarry is doing. And then if we see any issues, this will include budget to get recommendations from the engineer of record on how to address whether that be, grout injection or a more technically complex effort to basically stop the water and contain it within the reservoir.
So basically, you're trying to time that if it's leaking.
Basically, but had I said that, then you look at the number that I'm about to show you, maybe you would have had some follow-up questions. And then I guess I should mention, currently, right? Even though the original effort budgeted for 200 RFIs, we've received 430 to date, and we are still within our original budget. So Arcadis has been very efficient in handling this. But we do anticipate, with 2 additional years of construction here remaining, eventually that budget's going to run its course. And so we're adding a little bit extra here.
Can you elaborate on what's driving the doubling of RFIs, more than doubling of the RFIs?
Yeah, I sort of mentioned it earlier, but the way, if I take a look at all 40 and try to draw some like general conclusions, right? I think there's definitely questions that the contractor is asking, maybe for the sake of, hey, we can save $1 if we go with this different product than what's specified. There's supply chain challenges, there's maybe tariffs, there's things we're trying to avoid. Why don't we consider this, not that? There's definitely a healthy dose of that. But in addition to that, there have been pretty robust, complex problems that we've encountered on the site. And I think, again, the fact that we're still 90 days ahead of schedule, I think reflects that we've been proactive. We've been erring on the side of asking those questions before we get there and sort of hope to figure it out. It's a wide range. It might be, defects on contractor work that then requires corrective work plans to be developed. And so they'll submit the question with a proposed corrective work plan. That could be an RFI. The engineer will review and approve it. It's a pretty wide spectrum of different issues, but not necessarily from my point of view reflective of the project being in any sort of trouble or major issues with the design or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get an understanding of, because we're roughly 90 days ahead, but yet we're looking for an extension still. So just trying to figure out what's being anticipated is just a concern that the numbers jump so much that it's expected that we're going to get caught at some point, and that's why the additional.
I think more specifically, maybe, right. So the project substantial completion is targeting 2028 right now, April. Startup and commissioning and that startup testing, development of the program, you start flipping things on and they're not quite working as intended, or, tweaks, whatever. It's going to be a long journey for that phase of the project. We do anticipate there's going to be extra things to work through and problems. If we're lucky, we might not even need this, but it just sort of builds that buffer to have something there to draw from in case these problems do come up in the future. Is there?
Yeah, no, just understanding, trying to, I guess, the timing of doing it now when we're 90 days, we're ahead of schedule. It seems like at a later
Yeah.
point in time, it makes more sense to, once we start to see some, seems like we are I understand what we're trying to preemptively
Yeah.
set up that buffer, but I'm trying to understand based on what,
So I think also we are not planning to bring another task order forward for Arcadis. This is to get
Okay.
them through the rest of the project.
I see that.
So we're just bringing it forward as part of this one because we don't plan to come
There's
back.
not another chance to get a bite.
For now, of course, with the reservoir being filled, et cetera, that could introduce some other issues. But for now, we don't plan to bring any more task orders forward.
Okay,
Arcadis.
thank you.
I could maybe add just a couple more thoughts quickly. No, I think it's a very valid question. I think, we're approximately halfway through the contract, but, while we've saved, a few months, that's a small percentage of the schedule versus we've more than doubled the anticipated RFIs. But I think Savita hit the primary point, but also just wanted to acknowledge, like with Broad Run phase 2, that project went late and we managed within the budget we had for city services very, very well, Rick and his team, so there's certainly a level of administration of these hours amongst this entire team here that's, we're always looking to be as efficient as possible. And so there's that sort of track record. But again, Savita hit the primary point. We were just looking to be efficient with addressing the committee here today and the board.
Okay. Thank you.
So here's the general fee breakdown. Again, everything on the top portion of this summary here was approved back in 2023. And back then, we estimated that these additional phase services, at the time, of course, we were not anticipating the need to extend RFI's budget, right? But we were anticipating that it would come in around the $3.1 million mark based on rough assumptions at the time. We wanted to give the project a little bit of time to run and see how the contractor was performing and other substantial sort of factors to try to right size this effort at a later date. And so in conjunction with our OT group, as we developed the set of needs and scope of work for these operational phase services, we managed to basically size and negotiate the fee, including RFI support extension for 2.9 million. So we're ahead of our initial forecasts for a total for Arcadis, a total contract fee of 10.87, which represents 7.5% of the construction costs, which is well aligned with our typical metrics for projects of this size. So again, I'll pause here and take any questions if there are any. So this is how the fee breaks down between all of the different tasks. I'll bring attention to the fact that the larger labor effort is on programming and automation here, as you can see, followed by startup and commissioning support and operations. And this is really a type. It should be operations and training, which is where Arcadis will provide our operations and maintenance staff with the training they need to operate the facility, as well as develop the actual, O&M manual content and sort of publish that for our team. And, there's some additional sort of miscellaneous tasks here for the cost estimating and permitting support, things like that, asset management integration. But those are really smaller tasks in the context of the overall effort here. And I also wanted to mention that we are seeking approval of a 5% contingency for this work, just due to the almost famously complex and unpredictable nature of this, startup and commissioning and operational phase work. We thought it would be prudent to have a little bit of buffer there as well. Our CIP project snapshot here, it considers close to 70 million for finalizing the construction phase. That does include CMAR's work and design services during construction and CA services. So again, I'll pause here before the recommendation slide.
Does the operation of this facility require additional staff?
Does it require additional staff?
I mean, is that going to be done with the existing staff? Because it sounds like a major deal.
I will be honest, I am not sure, Alton, if we can.
Maybe premature, I'm just curious.
Right. We don't anticipate at this time that we'll be hiring additional staff for just this. But if you think about our water withdrawal program overall, as TRAP continues to expand in this pump station, the team will naturally grow. But when this comes online, it isn't instantly that we're going to need more staff.
And just to add to that, in general, right now we have the remote pump station at the Potomac River that's generally automated. It's visited by maintenance staff. And that's a similar paradigm here with this facility. But
I figured that was premature. I'm just curious.
that's a great question.
I'll read the motion.
Okay.
I move the recommendation to the board to approve a contract amendment for operational phase services for the Milestone Reservoir and Pump Station project to Arcadis for $2,963,287 with approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $3,111,500. Additional costs will require board approval and we'll put it on recommend consent agenda.
I'll second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes. Okay, next.
All right. So Rick and I are here to talk to you about the first task order that you will see for package 3 of phase 3. So I'm just going to give the committee a brief update on where we are on the overall phase 3 program before Rick gets into the design services. So this is really a reminder. It's the overall approach that we've shared with the board when we continue to bring forward phase 3 expansion of Broad Run, but we had some key goals. We do still need wastewater treatment capacity in the central system. So the figure on the right is where we're trying to show you kind of where we are in our overall water capacities. So our large investment in the Potomac water supply has our total water capacity up to a 70 MGD kind of max day treatment. With our current expansion that we just completed of Broad Run and our DC water capacity, we're at about 28.8 or 29 MGD of wastewater. So it's always been the plan to kind of build this capacity as we need it. So with phase 3, we brought forward the next expansion to get Broad Run up to 30 MGD, and that would get our total wastewater capacity up to about 43.8. So the capacity is still needed in the system so that we can keep up with JLMA and more wastewater generation as it comes online. But there are other benefits we're getting with these expansions along the way, and it's really allowing us to keep up with regulatory changes that are occurring in the industry right now. So we made the decision to upgrade our solids treatment technology. So the staging of these expansions are working out in Loudon Water's benefit so that we're not building older technology. As we build when we need it, we're able to make those technology advances at the right time. This is going to be one of the largest capital undertakings that Loudon Water has ever gone into. So when we looked at the overall scope of this, we decided to break it into these packages. And that's why it can get a little confusing with phase 3 and the multiple package process. But it made a lot of sense when we started looking at how would we break something this big up. So package 1 went to bid earlier in 2025, and it is the large dashed line you see. It's our site prep work. It made sense to get a dedicated contractor out here that was just going to level the site, get stormwater in place so that we can quickly get someone going on the larger build. Package 2 is really greenfield work. It is building new solids treatment facilities to the north of the existing plant. This package doesn't actually expand the treatment capacity of Broad Run, but it targets the systems that we needed the capacity the soonest. So we're getting biological treatment and we're upgrading that biosolids treatment process. And it's all focused on the north side of the plant. Package 3 that we're going to talk about today comes back down into our existing facilities and finishes the upgrades to get a full treatment capacity. So when we finish package 3, we will be at 20 MGD. This is a key increment for us, and we're definitely seeing the flow pressure that we need to get to 20. Package 4 comes back and just does more upgrades, just really building tankage to get that last 10 MGD. That is still further out in the future, but the phasing of those package 2, package 3 was really about constructability and speed. Package 4, we pushed out because we just wanted to take some more time. We don't see an immediate need for that capacity, so we're watching, waiting to pull the trigger when we know that capacity needs to be online. So just overall timing for the program. You'll see package 1 at the top. We've got that into construction. It'll be a pretty quick year-long project to get the site ready. And you'll see it's going to finish up just in time for the package 2 construction to start. We have received the 90% submittal on package 2, so that design is advancing very well. We've got a really good expansion going there. And then today, we're going to talk to you in more detail about package 3. We've thrown package 4 on. It's still a part of the program, but it is in flex out there, which is exactly what we wanted for this, right? We want to start it at the right time to be able to make any other adaptations that we might have as regulations change. So we will keep checking in on it. Year by year, we watch as the collection system changes and as we get more information about what's being built in the service area about when that package is going to be needed. So we typically do an informational update item like this for the board about once a year. So we'll continue to give you updates on where we think package 4 is. So any questions on our overall plan? Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Kendra, and good morning. I'm Rick Zafel, so I'll walk us through the second part of the presentation here, the request for Design Task 3, and this is for the Package 3, which is the expansion to 20 million gallons per day, as Kendra mentioned. So we'll start out by taking a look at the project scope here. I've got 2 slides on that. The first one is our process flow diagram. So the process flow through the facility starts in the upper left here and goes down through the lower right. Mainly those are the liquids processes, and then we have reclaimed water kind of coming off here toward the end of the process, and we have equalization as well. And then down here at the bottom, we have all of our solids processes included. And this does include the package 2 solids processes. Kendra mentioned that we are engaging in some solids improvements for regulatory in anticipation of regulatory changes. And so this graphic does include those facilities. And so talking about the package 3 project, so it is primarily liquids improvement. We've got influent pumping and core screens expansion, and we got primary clarifiers and new fine screen, and in particular fine screens includes new footprint, new building. We also have a new equalization tank, and then we have a little bit of solids improvements at the WAS thickening facility, and that's an existing building improvements. And then our second graphic here for the scope, this is similar to the graphic that we saw beforehand for package 3. This kind of lays out the site plan for the package 3 improvements, and I'll just kind of walk us through here again. So we got influent pumping, we've got then core screens and primary clarifier additions. Then our new footprints include that fine screen building. We also have odor control improvements as well. That's also new footprint. And then we have the thickening improvements in the existing building. And then additional footprint includes this gas flare and then that new equalization tank as well. And this graphic shows the main process building and process area improvements, but it's not able to show all of the ancillary improvements that go with this. For example, the site civil layout, yard piping. There's also some site-wide communication improvements that are involved in the project, and then all of the discipline-specific elements of the project: the architectural, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, instrumentation.
We
Yes.
have the ability to flare gas now, or this is something new?
We do. There is an existing gas flare that sits right here in this area. And so this will be a replacement for that. Yes. Right. Any other questions about the project scope? Okay. So we're going to talk about money now here. So first, estimated construction cost. So back in 2023, we did a basis of design report, and we came up with a construction cost estimate for all 4 of the packages. And so package 3 was included among those, and that was our $115 million. And then toward the end of last year, we did an update on the package 3 anticipated construction cost, and we were able to get the cost down to $90 million. And you may be wondering, how did we do that? Well, we were able to defer some facilities to package 4. So there was an electrical building, a permeate tank, and then a UV expansion. And all of those facilities, we thought originally, or a few years ago, we would need those in package 3, but we were able to push those to package 4. And that's really how we were able to drop the cost estimate down to $90 million. Questions there on the construction cost?
So for those portions that are currently in package 3 that were part of the basis of the design report, did we notice any savings, or did those creep up and we just deferred a bunch of stuff to package 4?
I think the real savings was just in deferring those 3 facilities. Generally, the package 3 project beside those facilities is generally the same. There was one thing that we actually pulled forward, an equalization tank that you saw on the site plan graphics there.
Are you seeing price escalation on the things that are still part of?
I think we're,
Yeah. Deferred, I think that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
What's deferred? Are we expecting to see it increase for whatever reason, tariffs or material costs or anything else? Because
I don't know that we're seeing tariff costs per se, but there's just continued escalation in the
Okay.
construction industry. It's affecting all of the
Inflationary costs.
packages, right?
Yeah.
It's occurring in package 2, it's occurring in
Or
package.
just organic inflationary costs, not.
Yeah.
And it's been despite our best attempts at hedging that. I don't know, Kendra, if you want to talk a little bit about this couple of years, how frustrating that's been.
Right. So we've, not talking about package 2 costs today, but as a group that manages Broad Run, we have put our best effort in to say, how can we save costs? And we've gone and really changed our approach at how we build things at Broad Run. And we really wanted to come forward and show true cost savings on package 2 that we weren't able to do just because of cost escalation. And it is industry-wide. It is also very much focused on Northern Virginia, just due to the intense competition with all the data centers and construction going on. It's leading to more inflation in our electrical and controls in this area that's even higher than it is in the rest of the nation. So there's a part of us that could say maybe if that slows down the road, maybe we could see that at least level out. But cost estimators are very conservative. And as much as we like to say, we think we're going to get very good competition on these packages, we've got a lot of great interest from contractors. So we're hoping when we bid package 2, that it will come in under that estimate. And when it does, we hope to change our outlook because these are very conservative estimates because of the nature of cost estimators. So we're hoping to apply that to these later packages as well. So we've really got our eyes on package 2 and then how that might change these later phases of estimating.
This packaging concept, I mean, it's not apples to apples, but we feel so fortunate in that package 1, we broke that into site work and we ended up getting a very
Really
site work contractor and we reaped the benefits of that approach. And that's, again, not apples to apples for these next packages, but we're trying on all fronts.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to the design cost for the package 3. So I've got a breakdown here, and this would be a continuation of Hazen's professional services contract for the Phase 3 expansion program that was signed in 2021. And this breakdown here, it's been thoroughly reviewed, evaluated, and negotiated with Hazen, and we come to a total cost here of 8.7 million. And this is a time and materials not to exceed contract, which as is customary. And we feel that this is appropriate and in line with what we would anticipate for a design effort of this magnitude and this size. And it comes out to 9.7% of the construction value based on that 90 million estimate. And I'll just expand on one of these categories here. These are typical categories that we would have: the project management, the different stages of design, permitting, bid and award, and others. But I'll expand real quick on subcontracts. So there's 4 subcontractors working under Hazen for this effort. We've got Black & Veatch, who would be doing the cost estimating and all the odor control system design for the project. We've got J2 Engineers doing the site layout and site plan, and then also the permitting. And then we've got ECS doing the geotechnical investigations. And then eMerge at the end, they're a system integration type company. And so they would be providing support on the functional control descriptions that would be prepared kind of at the tail end of the design for all the different process improvements and process areas. So questions here on the fee breakdown? All right, we'll talk about how this compares to the 10-year CIP. So the project that this would be funded from is BRW 32, which covers the planning and design for the Phase 3 expansion program. And this is driven by growth and capacity expansion. And in that 10-year CIP budget, we've got 16 million allocated for the planning and design efforts looking ahead. So that would include this project and then also the remainder of the package 2 design as well, which is underway. Questions here? All right, we'll wrap up here with schedule. So on this graphic here, we'll start out with the package 3 schedule. So we plan to start design here right at the tail end of the first quarter here in 2026. We're looking at roughly a 2-year design followed by an approximate 6-month bid and award period. And then the tail end of 2028, third quarter, or perhaps the fourth quarter here, we would start construction on package 3, and that would run to 2032 as Kendra's graphic showed earlier. And then just for the sake of comparison and context, I've also got package 2 here as well on this graphic. So with package 2, we're well underway in design. We're actually at 90% right now. And that design is scheduled to finish up here in the third quarter of this year, followed by a plus or minus 6-month bidding period. And then we anticipate starting package 2 construction at the end of the first quarter or early part of the second quarter of next year. And that would run out to 2031. That project is scheduled to finish construction mid to late 2031. And then I've also got package 1 as well, our site work project. So that was bid and awarded last year in the third quarter. And we are just about to start construction on that. The notice to proceed is actually Monday. And that construction will run through the early part of 2027. It's about a year project. And that will be wrapped up ahead of the package 2 construction as we anticipated and planned. And so that's our schedule here for the 3 projects. Any questions on schedule? Okay, and this is my last slide here before the motion. So I'll go ahead with the motion.
Before we make a motion, I'm thinking this should be an action item because of the size and complexity. What do you guys think? I mean, we could do it on consent, but
I gravitate where,
But we,
go ahead.
I was
Terry.
just gonna say, we have 5 members already reviewing it. Any member could take it off of consent. It is under $10 million. I'll defer to Terry if he's still on.
I mean, I'm fine with consent.
Okay, I'll make the motion. I move the recommendation to the board to authorize the general managers to execute an amendment to the professional services contract with Hazen and Sawyer for the Broad Run Water Reclamation Facility Phase 3 expansion project for design task 3 with an estimated not to exceed cost of $8,700,000 and authorize an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget not to exceed $9,135,000. Additional costs will require board approval, and put this onto the consent agenda.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I think this project is impressive, the way you guys are handling it. I think, and I do have one question. With the break in the Potomac Interceptor, did that affect us at all?
So the collapse in the Potomac Interceptor was further down and at a point where, Loudon Water, WSSC, Fairfax, everybody's contributing to the Potomac Interceptor at that point. So it didn't affect our operations, but Loudon Water does everything that we can to help out at that time. So we did increase treatment at Broad Run to reduce as much as we can the flows going to the Potomac. I mean, it's hard for us to make a difference because it's so big compared to where we were, but we did make those adjustments.
It was interesting that they put the sewage into the canal.
Yes, and that was part of their backup plan. I think there has been a lot of question about what is DC Water's backup plan because we've had 2 kind of emergency actions on the Potomac Interceptor, but they do have emergency contracts on standby for bypass pumping. but bypass pumping can be difficult. So in those areas where they had the canal available, they've got those emergency plans in place. So I think it was impressive how fast they were able to mobilize and get that done. I know it always takes longer than we want it to, but they do have good bypass pumping capabilities.
What exactly happened? Did the pipe collapse or what was the failure?
They still don't know. So they just have the bypass pumping has been in place and they've got crews in looking at it to figure out exactly where the failure is and what has happened. But it's just, I think, due to corrosion. I mean, there are some initial evaluations of the pipe was corroded in this area, but what the actual failure is, they're still getting in there to figure it out.
What's the material, concrete? The pipe?
Ooh, that I can't say. I don't know if Jessica's here, but I'm not sure.
It was in their CIP to replace, they just didn't get there in time. They had been slip lining further down the PI, but this was a separate project and they didn't get to it before it failed.
Now, this was down of all the intakes or?
Yes, it was downstream of all the intakes, so no water supply was impacted by this.
Nobody's gonna go swimming at this time anyway. Okay, I think the next one is the award of construction contract ammonia upgrades progressive design build project phase 2.
Yeah, I'm Kinsey. Always a pleasure to be here. I'm here to present the design build contract amendment for the Community Systems Ammonium Removal Project. We'll be talking about today project background and drivers, progressive design build structure and process. I do use PDB for progressive design build, so catch me if it gets a little confusing. I'm going to present the phase 2 construction contract fee and then finally the recommended motion. Why is this a project? Great question. Virginia implemented ammonia limits for small wastewater facilities. This move complies with an EPA requirement to protect aquatic life in the receiving stream, right? We want to be very sensitive to those species in the receiving stream. Permits will include this new limit starting in 2023 permit renewal cycles. This regulation affected all of our small systems. Our approach, very stepwise, systematically review and understand upgrades, group facilities by permit renewal dates, find a solution that complements the approach and our resources. That right? Maybe there's a project way that we can do this better. And that's why the PDB comes into play. And finally, all affected sites are captured in CIP spending. St. Louis, Waterford, Elijah Heights, that's what we're talking about today. That is carried under COM 76. Aldi, Raspberry Falls, those are future projects with future spending. That is under COM 60. I just want to pause here real quick and acknowledge that this regulation did not catch us by surprise. We have tracked it in our CIP for a while and have delayed other facility needs to complement this larger project. Extending asset life to meet parallel goals is not new or unusual. It's kind of what we do on a daily. And I want to stress that these sites have not had any significant capital spending in the near term. If you think about it, Waterford, St. Louis Lagoon systems are late 70s, early 80s. They probably reached their useful life. This graphic highlights the PDB relationship. Always good to show a circle in relationships. We are the owner. We have a direct contract with the PDB entity or the design builder entity, and that is Clark with Dewberry. Clark is the primary, and we have a professional advisor in Black & Veatch who's contracted with us, not necessarily into the project, but as you can see with the green dots that they do kind of work with the overall team. Both Clark, Dewberry, and Black & Veatch have assigned dedicated teams. The project relationship is strong. The PDB process is multi-step. First, the board approved using PDB in 2022. This led to selecting the design build entity. This was a two-step selection generally based on qualifications, right? So we looked at different firms, they proposed, we reviewed. Next, staff returned in 2023 recommending agreement with Clark for phase 1. Phase 1 is the design phase, and that phase is now complete. Today, we're requesting a contract amendment for phase 2 with a phase 2 fee. This will take us through construction. Just a small nuance for PDB, design takes you to 90%, and then construction phase completes that design to 100%, gets the permits, and then builds it. We think community systems, we think small. I just want to kind of just share that this project is complicated, right? There's 3 sites, 2 new facilities, and we have to maintain operations across all 3. I want to take the time to step through each site and kind of maybe talk about some details. The Waterford project site is a new facility with advanced treatment. There's influent pump station work, primary screens, sequencing batch reactor, tertiary filtration, and UV disinfection. We need to maintain plant operations throughout construction. And then there's a lagoon abandonment. Both those lagoons out there need to have the solids removed, and they're going to be filled to grade per the closure plan. St. Louis project is very similar to Waterford, but it's a new facility with advanced treatment. Once again, primary screens, sequencing batch reactor, tertiary filtration, UV disinfection. Little change in the arrangement of treatment here. You know, the receiving stream out in St. Louis is the low flow, no flow. So the limits are a little more stringent. So there's an extra tankage for, I guess, treatment activities. We need to maintain plant operations. This one is also unique because of space on the site. We're building in one of the lagoons. So we need to take that lagoon offline, make it available to the contractor, and kind of really have a good interface between the teams. And of course, lagoon abandonment, remove solids, fill to grade. For Elysian, it's a little simpler. We were able to leverage kind of some near-term upgrades we required. Facility process modifications, we're going to convert from chemical feed disinfection to UV light. That's also going to have a structure canopy over it. And we're going to demolition of the old contact tank. That's a great move operationally for us, right? We're getting away from a chemical feed system to a physical process. We're also going to replace existing instrumentation control systems. We're going to have new devices across the facility. All devices are the same age as the facility, which is around 2008, 2009. So their useful life has kind of been met. Here's the phase 2 construction stage services fee. You can see that the total price is about $58.4 million. That is composed of construction packages around $40 million, engineering services about $4 million. That is engineering services to support the project and the contractor. GCGRs, insurance and bonds, are about $14 million, and allowances, which is controlled by the owner, is about $615K. We also, on the slide, highlighted that we broke this down by site. Waterford's roughly $27 million, St. Louis is $26 million, and Elysian is $5 million.
For the allowances, what is that?
We have some opportunities to, like DVP, if they require something different in routing the upgrades, that we can release those funds as needed and not have them in control by the contractor. Here's a CIP project snapshot. This is covered under Project Com 76. We do have a 10-year CIP budget of $60 million plugged in. This is the final slide before the
I
recommendation.
think Terry has a question.
Oh, go ahead, Mr. Allen.
Hey, Kinsey, I, have been doing a little bit of research online, so I apologize. I know it's probably the bane of an engineer to hear somebody going and looking at engineering stuff, but my question is this full nitrification that we're doing at these sites? Is there any, I'm just blown away by the cost of these upgrades. And I'm just wondering, I'm sure we have, but I just need to hear it from you. Have we explored other sort of treatment processes that maybe could sneak us through the permitting process or the new regulations? And I'm just blown away by how expensive this is, and trying to see if we've exhausted every other possible way of reducing the ammonia levels.
Oh, love the question. So first, one of the design requirements we had for Dewberry through the Clark contract was to achieve full nitrification. We thought it was just a good standard to have, a good practice that would remove all the ammonia from the water and kind of give us maybe a little comfort level to not be designed up to that limit. When we started our design, the state really has not adopted an equation for what they're showing. We're starting to see it on some permits, but we did try to give that guidance. When it came time to about right sizing the effort different facility, Elysian, discharged into Potomac. That has a really high ammonia limit. The upgrades of Elysian is not about nitrification. It is about being more operational already. That was the delay we did. We were tracking that maybe Elysian could have an ammonia limit, but when it didn't, we just pivoted and we're doing the chemical change and the instrumentation. St. Louis and Waterford is difficult. There was no good lagoon solution or lagoon amendment to kind of meet those treatment goals. So we did have to go through a change in process. We do like sequencing batch reactors. That's what Raspberry Selma is. We think they're pretty robust. And those two discharge streams are I don't want to call them strictly impaired by definition, but I shared earlier, St. Louis is a low flow. So it does have stringent limits across the board. And Catoctin is impaired for, I think, turbidity, which isn't caused by the treatment plant, but it's just, we're trying to be sensitive to receiving streams and we're trying to be flexible for a long-term solution. I don't want to say 50 years, but we wanted to be in position appropriately.
I just want to add to that we did start this program with a study about what options did we have at each site. And this wasn't even the most expensive option, right? Had we done what LCPS did at Luckett's, which was evaluated as well, it could be even more expensive when you go in and just go with full membrane treatment to kind of make yourself bulletproof to future regulatory changes. So there really wasn't a good lower cost opportunity. However, the cost we're investing here is good investment because future regulations could come, right? We are still looking at, is nutrient removal going to be required at these sites and at what level? So not saying there was a way to position lower for the nutrients, but it still prevents further tankage having to come on when and if those regulations come. So this was still just
So how much of this is purely about ammonia on a percentage basis, and how much is it about upgrading the plant at the same time, improving other operational things, planning for future nutrient things that may come up? I'm just trying to get just for my edification.
Yeah, I tried to talk myself in that circle. There just wasn't a lower cost option to get the ammonia removal. So this was what it costs to get ammonia. It just would have been cheaper if we didn't have lagoons, right? So I don't remember. I think, did we even get a cost for just a lagoon to say what that difference would be? Because it didn't meet the goals.
It didn't meet the goals because we also in
Got it.
parallel have a requirement to demo the lagoons. The state is trying to push people out of the lagoon business and they kind of make incentives for us to do that. So we've also adopted to have the lagoons removed from service.
Yeah.
Mr. Allen, about kind of the percentage, I don't have a number, but Elysian job, that 6 million, I think I shared on the previous screen, that is not about ammonia. And when the other plants, they're total rebuilds. So we looked at it as a complete working system. So I don't know if we can really break that out. We did try to compare our numbers to other package plants, and there are some very value savings package plants out there, but they didn't have the same effluent limits we had. And we had to look to Eastern Maryland, and they have really strict Chesapeake Bay limits. And we were kind of tracking with them a little bit, just based on the technology we're using and some of the design aspects we have to kind of make operations better. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it helps a little bit. Thank you.
Welcome. Any other questions?
I move the recommendation to the board to approve a progressive design build contract amendment with Clark Construction Group LLC for the Community Systems Ammonia Removal Project with a phase 2 cost for $58,398,984 and authorize an approximate 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for an authorized budget ceiling not to exceed $61,318,000 without further board approval. Let's go into consent.
Consent,
Yeah.
and that'll be with consent. I second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
It's a lot to.
All right, thank you to the committee. I am back. This time I'm presenting the approval of professional advisor services for phase 2 of the ammonia removal design build project. Kind of expedited because the previous conversation, we're about the role and benefits of the professional advisor phase 2 scope and fee, and the recommended motion. Revisiting our graphic from earlier, the professional advisor has an understanding of the project but fully supports the owner. Small nuance, Dewberry is not directly contracted with Loudon Water. They cannot speak on behalf of the owner. That is a difference compared to our design bid build relationships. We look for a professional advisor in this relationship to include contractual guidance, technology review and analysis, and CA services report. They're going to help our team with RFIs, change order review as needed, probably pay app review, and any specialty inspections that can't be covered by state code that Dewberry provides the project. And once again, just a friendly reminder that the entities, owners, Loudon Water, design builders, Clark and Dewberry, and the professional advisor is Black and Beach. This is just a quick summary of the Black and Beach scope and fee, project management, reoccurring progress meetings, and reoccurring advising meetings with Loudon Water is about $400K. Construction phase owner advisor services is a little bit over $1 million, and third-party specialty inspections about $300K. This is about 2.5-year project. Total fee for the professional advisor is $1.78 million. This is also carried under COM 76. Any questions about the role of professional advisor or this slide? Have the recommend motion in front of you.
The recommendation. I move the recommendation to the board to approve a task order for Community Systems Ammonia Removal Project, Phase 1 Professional Advisor Services to Black and Beach for an estimated cost of $1,783,500 with 5% contingency to be controlled by the general manager for a total authorized budget of $1,873,000. Additional costs will require board approval, and put this on the consent agenda. Get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
The CIP, whoops. I know is the work plan.
It's the work
for
plan.
CIP next year.
Yeah,
this
we
year.
can pull it up if there's anything in particular you want to talk
I
about.
had asked you, I don't know if you had a chance to do it. Is there any simple way of figuring out how your past estimates were accomplished?
Yeah, I
If
took
you
a look
can't
at
do it,
that.
I'm just
No,
trying to
I
keep up.
did. Very roughly, we had 47 items planned last year. That does not include the capital spending report or informational items, the construction report. It's just mostly action items. We accomplished, we brought forward 25 of those items, 25. All of the items that were presented today were also on that list. So we kind of just missed the 2025 mark. So we could add a few more if we wanted to. So we accomplished about 50%, a little bit more than 50% of what we planned. I went through and looked at the ones that we didn't bring forward. And really, they were the broad categories, right? Were permitting delays, sort of the typical things, easement acquisition, maybe pausing. We had a couple of items where we paused the work because there was similar other work going on. And we wanted to kind of bring them together, right? Not move too quickly on a project, but we were waiting for some of the master plans to be done. We also had some projects where we initially thought we were going to go directly into a design, but the more we got into it, we realized, hey, we need to do a little study first, and maybe that didn't rise to the level of bringing it to the board. So those items have been deferred to this year. And then we had one or two projects where we ended up adding additional design work to the project, so kind of delayed the schedule. And then there were a few that have some external reasons, like the Paonian that we saw. There's just been delays with the county and kind of working through some of the things. So there were a couple of items that were kind of in those general categories. So we got about 50%. So we'll see how we do this year.
I was just curious because I looked at this list and boy, it is ambitious.
It's ambitious. Yeah. You know what's going to be great though? We're going to finally get Broad Run Farms on the docket. We've been waiting to do that project for so long, and the EPA is finally underway. So I promise we're going to bring that one forward this year. I think that's been on the agenda for like 3 or 4 years now.
That's
any
truly
specific
amazing it's
questions on
taken
this?
this long. It's
Excuse
just truly
me?
amazing that Broad Run's taken that long.
Yeah,
it's
we've been done with the design for I think 3 years, roughly. We're finishing up the last bit. We need to be behind the EPA and construction by a few months. So they finally issued their contract, I believe it was the end of last year, right, Amelia? Yeah, so we're going to advertise that project soon and bring that to the committee for approval.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
No, Mr. Chair, I do have a request, is that I will not be attending the March 26th. I'll be traveling that day.
Okay.
Okay, spending report.
Any comments or questions on our spending report? This is the full year. I think it's not entirely final. We're still processing invoices from, the end of the year. So I think there will be a final update, which Sally you'll present later, right? Yeah, when the audit is complete.
So when do we expect to complete that?
Any questions? No?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm good.
Yes, that's it. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Make the motion to adjourn. the
So
meeting.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
I do have one other question. Did you guys get affected by the snow much with the facilities?
We did end up, we got a lot of snow, so we had staff staged at the treatment plants. We had remote staff and Kinsey's team staged at hotels so that everyone was prepared to move snow, keep facilities open. And it took about 24 hours, right, for our field staff to keep operations going. But overall, they performed amazing and there were no negative
Hey.
impacts.
Any
Can you
water
thank-
main breaks?
Can you thank them for us for the effort?
Absolutely. So there weren't any breaks during the event. I think I've seen maybe one since, but oftentimes when it's this frozen, we don't find the breaks until it starts to thaw. So we're still waiting, right, for that impact.
WSSC had a whole bunch of breaks, I
So did-
believe.
Fairfax.
Right, thank you.